and Novoneel has frozen. Hi everyone, we're live. Unfortunately, Novoneel, who's joining us in this conversation, has frozen. So we're just going to take a moment and let him come back. Please bear with us. You all know what internet is like these days.
Am I audible and visible? Okay, I'm live.
Yes, and you've unfrozen. Welcome back, Novoneel.
Okay, I'm so sorry, guys. So welcome everyone who is watching this live. I just got myself off, but I welcome all of you today. So basically, I'm Novoneel Chakraborty, and I have written 17 novels, and thankfully they've become bestsellers. And I generally write thrillers. And firstly, I would love to thank Penguin Random House India and Crossword for having this live. And I would love to welcome two lovely authors who's very, come up with a very amazing thriller book called Farside. So that's Krishna and Udayasankar. Krishna and Jai, please. It would be great if you could, tell people who are joining us a little bit about you.
Yeah, I'm a first-time author. I'm basically a finance professional, and in fact, I
Right.
can't even say I'm an author because I'm just an ideator, and the book was written by my wife. I have been an aspiring author for the last so many years. So it's great to finally get a book published.
Yeah. So this is your debut, basically.
Yeah, this is my debut. Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. And I think Krishna has written a lot many books. I mean, 4 5 books she has written already.
Yeah, this is my ninth book. So yes,
Awesome.
co-authored with Jaishankar Krishnamurthy, and hi, this is Krishna Udayasankar. And so yeah, this is my ninth book, and I know Jay is calling himself a debut author, but I just want to say he's been the force behind my previous 8 books as well. So I think in a
Sure.
way this
Sure.
is his ninth book too. So yeah, and it's my
Awesome.
first foray into the thriller genre, so I've been very excited about it.
Right, right. And that's actually, I'm so tempted to ask that why thrillers? And if you could just tell people about this new book of yours called Far Side, how about, why did you, write it? What made you write it? What triggered the book and all?
The thing is, you see, I am a crime buff, so that's
Right,
like I read and watch, like that's like my main blood and like I watch a lot of crime, and that's the only thing which that's what the ideas which I have been coming up over the last so many years has all been related to always crime.
okay,
So it's usually generally whodunits, but the credit
right,
for making it a thriller actually, like because mine would have been probably like a very placid, slow-going investigative kind of thing. But for
right.
making it a fast-paced thriller and making a lot of changes and all, the credit goes to my wife. So like she made it into a thriller. So
Awesome. So how did you, so how
When
do you
he
guys,
says that, I never know whether he's happy or he's just like saying, if it sucks, it's her fault. If it sucks, it's her fault.
but tell me, how did you get into this? Like, how did you decide to collaborate? Because it's Jazz that way technically first book. So how did you decide to collaborate on like this is the book that we or this is the story that we should tell together?
the thing is, see, I have been trying to write books for like so many, like I think for uh, since like childhood, but I could never
Okay.
write. And I wrote the synopsis for this book in I was looking it up in 2008.
Okay.
So I've
Oh,
been
okay.
but yeah, and I have written 3 4 more synopses, but I could never go ahead and complete it. But
Right.
then I sought my Krishna, wife's help, and saying, "Can you please take a look at it?" And when she was free in one of those books, and this is one of the ideas that she liked,
Right.
then she agreed to kind of like become a co-author, and that also was a very big help for me because like if I had gone solo in this current market, because there is another book of mine which is with Anuj Berry, which is like
Okay.
been there for 6 months. So
Right.
my book would not have seen the light of day. So yeah,
So you've been trying to get Rope and Krishna from 2008. It means writing synopsis after synopsis so that you can impress her.
yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah.
That's interesting. So, but another thing that so because every time I've written a book, I have done it. I though I get messages and emails from certain authors that want to collaborate with me over a book and all. When it comes to writing novels, I find it very, I don't know. I mean, I find it a little uncomfortable writing a book with someone. So I would love to know. And though I know that even internationally there are, couples writing book together. There's this, I forgot the name. There's this Swedish crime couple who write, their books together under a pseudonym, I guess. So I would love to know, how do you collaborate? Who does work? Do you just, Jay, do you just ideate, as you said, or do you also physically write the book, or who does what basically, and how do you, go about creating the book?
I think the first thing we do is yell at each other a lot. And I'm sure that's true for many writing duos, whether they are partners or not.
I'm sure.
And then at
Creative
some
battles.
point, sorry, I missed that.
Creative battles, right? We all have that.
Well, yes and no. Let's not go too deep into that.
Right.
But no. So I think what happened with this book particularly is that, of course, like he said, he had the synopsis. Then we sat with the synopsis, reworked it. Then he wrote a first pass draft, which, or semi draft, which then I took up and I started writing. And I think it's very similar to writing a book on your own, because every time you go through that manuscript, it changes in some way. And you must be familiar with that. You write the whole thing and then you're like, no. And you go back and change the first chapter, or you change something in the middle.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty much the same thing, except that a lot of it gets discussed and shouting matches happen beforehand. But in a way, that's really good.
But
because
for this to work, one of the person has to be like, if both of them kind of go through every sentence and every line, like, for me, it won't
I think,
then it will going to be very tough.
And just tell me if this is true, that I feel when two people write a book, one of them has to be a little detached. And one of, both of you cannot be in love with the book, right? I mean, otherwise, I guess Jay is the one who's a little detached. That's why he's raising his hand.
That's what he says, but I think he's in love with the idea. Yeah. I'm in love with the writing. Right. So, but I think that's also the first factor that comes in, that, if I write a sentence, he's not going to say a sentence bakwas hai, or this line is not working. Similarly, when he has an idea that, of course, we'll fight about it a lot and, discuss it a lot, but it's his idea and it has to go forward.
All right. Before we progress, I would like to tell everyone who have joined us that the link to Krishna and Jay's latest book, Farside, is there in the comment section, or you can directly buy it online, or you can buy it from Crosswords website, or you can visit their store nearby and get the book and read it out. It's a very riveting one. But also coming back to the thing that we were discussing is that do you guys plot it out completely, because thrillers are so much about plots, or do you go for intuitive writing and see where it goes eventually and decide accordingly one day at a time?
No, we had initially written a synopsis, then we had a lot of discussions. And then one day what I did was, like, I kind of, in one of my cupboards, I wrote down this is a series of events. And then we started off like saying, no, this should not be here, then move it there. So that kind of process happened, and that kind of sheet we removed it only, I think, 2-3 months ago.
3 months ago, once it got published.
So that at any point of time, we could kind of know how the plot line is, and if any time something doesn't make sense, you can kind of...
Yeah, I totally relate to it. I also have a whiteboard where I, chop down the plot line and the characters involved, the universe and everything. I guess when you look at them, it gives you more idea, and I think it gives you a sense of where you are, a direction, more than anything else, and what's right and what's wrong. And one thing that I noticed about Farside, I've not completed the book, I'm in between somewhere, but what I noticed about the book is that it has a lady protagonist, a woman protagonist. So because we all are consuming so much of content apart from books also, I've also noticed this, I don't know if I should call it a trend or not. A lot of crime thrillers these days, be it the Nordic ones, the international ones, or the Indian ones, are having women as the protagonist. So I just wanted to just have a discussion whether it's just a trend, or does when you keep a woman in center of a crime thriller, does it allow us certain layers as authors so we can explore more and make it even more riveting than if it has a male protagonist? Or this is all in a way, it doesn't matter really if it's a woman or a male. Just wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Because you see, because as I said, uh, when I initially conceptualized it, that time itself, the idea was, it will be a very powerful woman character, because I have loved books which have had very powerful woman
Right.
characters, so that one, that's why I set it up like this. And
Okay.
as you're absolutely right that these days the actually woman detectives actually play a much more important role, and
Right.
equally important role, in fact the lead role in many thrillers.
Yeah.
And somewhere I don't know, I was never kind of like the whether it's a male or a female, it has kind of, for me, it has not made a difference as such, so long as they are able to keep the story within that,
Of course.
you know
Hmm.
within my comfort zone,
Right.
like you can, if a man can have heart problem, any you can have whatever, but so long as it doesn't take you know uh, the viewer away from the story and you're like getting bored.
Right. Hmm.
If
Hmm.
it's a
So
male or a
basically, it
female,
has to be the character. Character has to be interesting more than anything else,
yeah,
more than the gender.
yeah.
Yeah. But if I may, Novoneel, we'd love to hear
Yeah.
your thoughts on this as well. I mean, you write in this genre too, and
Yeah.
how does that work? The
So,
gender of the protagonist.
and mostly my almost all my books have female protagonists, and the only reason I think, because now on the hindsight I can think about it, the only reason I have chosen female protagonists to unfold the stories is simply because men bore me. When I sit down to write about men, I just don't know what to write about them. But just don't know. I mean, and I also figured out something, that when especially because we are from India, so when we have such layered societal designs for women, when we place our protagonist at a certain societal point, it gives the character automatically a lot to play with, rather than just a male character. A female, let's say a female detective or a female cop or whatever, she has to obviously that balance between the proverbial homemaker, whether even if you're a policewoman, you have to know what's cooking tonight and all those things, that societal design that fascinates me. Because then I think when Jay was talking about this powerful women, I completely related to it, because that's where the power of the woman comes out, I guess, where she can do amazing stuff, solve a crime mystery, and yet has a balance in her life, or how she's tackling. When I have tried to attempt it from a male's point of view, I get blocked at times, because I don't know where to bring in the layering. Because which actually brings me to another question of mine that I had was, thrillers over the years, even from a reader's point of view, it's majorly about plot. What is the story, what is the plot and everything. But and how I look into it is that thrillers initially essentially should have an IQ to it. Like thrillers are intelligent books. Romance may or may not be intelligent books. They should be more on emotions. But what I feel is, if thriller as when you write a book as a thriller, as the genre is thriller, I think the EQ of a book also matters. When what I mean by EQ is basically how much you are dwelling with the character, and how much you are allowing the readers to invest in the character. Because if you see, plot is one thing, and we cannot every time, with like now after writing 17 books, I realize every time you cannot have a kick-ass plot, because it's the classic tropes. It's a classic trope that you have to fall back to. It's only how you are unfolding the story,
Hmm.
that matters, and that engages the readers. So I just wanted to discuss this. What's your point of view on whether you just go for the plot, that let the plot be cracking, or you have some space to invest on the characters, so that after I close the book, or any reader closes your book, they should remember, like for example, the protagonist is Charu in Farside. They should remember her also, apart from the story, of course.
I think this character development and all, I will leave to my wife, because you see, I am totally a plot person. So,
Yeah, but
Got it, got it,
no,
got it.
I see. I think that way, that's what's worked about this book, which is that that his focus has been on the plot. And I generally, even when I start visualizing a book, any genre, to me, it
Right,
begins with a character. I mean, I get invested in it because I want to know more about that person and why they're doing what they're doing, which links
right,
it back to the plot. And
right.
particularly with Farside, it is a book that is based on the fact that every individual seems to have another side to them, and you
Yeah,
can't get into a plot that is based on that without really playing around with the characters, because it's only when you establish that character, even have that feeling of, oh my God, I didn't think this person was going to do this.
And
And therefore, the character, I mean, personally, I enjoy working on characters very much. They feel very real to me. And, I sometimes even feel like they're just doing their stuff and I'm watching them and I'm writing it down. And
right.
but from a very sort of even a technical standpoint, in that sense, in this book, characters had to play an important role
Right,
because the mystery itself is rounded around the characters of these people.
Yes. In fact, I totally hear you out on that, because so against popular belief, certain plot points of a book also comes if you have unpredictable characters. It's not necessary that the plot will always give you the plot point. Sometimes if you have let's say the classic example of unreliable narrator, a film like a Fight Club, which had the classic unreliable narrator. The plot itself didn't give any plot points, except that the fact that the creator led the audience in a certain way where we thought we have kind of sized up the character, and then we realized no, it's not what it seems. So I totally agree with you, Krishna, on that I think writing about unpredictable characters, especially when we are writing thrillers, lend themselves to the entirety of the book. But it comes with additional plot points and those things. And I was also
But
wondering.
to that,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
I
please.
may just add on, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think both of us have, at least I have a very strong aversion to
Hmm.
non-logical behaviors. So,
Right.
in that sense, I don't think, in an unreliable narrator, in that sense, would ever, I don't know, I'd have to really think about how would I write with that if I ever have to, how would we write with that if we ever have to. But I think, and that
Right.
is where the characters became very important, because even though you don't see it coming, you see that their arc has led them to that point. So in retrospect, you
Of
were like,
course.
oh my God, this
Yeah,
person
yeah,
has been
yeah,
through this
yeah.
experience. Now it makes sense. But also that flipping. So I think that's where I also really enjoyed it, which is how do you
Hmm.
build something up logically at the
Yeah.
same time make it surprising?
So basically, you are, what you mean is that we should see certain traits, even if it's subtle, within the character's universe, so that even if the character behaves in a certain way unpredictably, also we should not, it should not feel like it's a completely out of character moment.
Absolutely. And I
or
think that's
or
where
you
also the
justify it.
plot
Yeah.
comes in. Because
Right.
then
Right. Right.
the plot is literally, the plot and the character's journey start fusing. They become
Yes.
the result of what is happening with them, around them, to them. And that is where that blending has to come in. So that it's not just about the incidents or just about the characters, but literally the life they're living in the space of that book.
Absolutely. In fact, and that also makes for engaging reading for the readers, where they obviously want to decode the plot, but also kind of also feel empathetic towards the character, So that's a supposedly a home run if you have an amazing character and a classic, out of the box plot. So I've got one question from one of our viewers. So I just would like to request the viewers that you can put in your questions. So I'll make sure that we can squeeze in questions as our conversation goes ahead. So this is from Saksham Garg. He asked that what are a few character traits of the protagonist that readers can expect to relate to, perhaps in your book Farside.
Thank you for the question, Saksham Garg. Would you like to take that or?
No. It is all the tough ones too.
Oh, okay. I get the tough ones. All right.
Right.
I think in that sense, the book is very much around everyday people. So Charu, the protagonist, she could be me. She could be the girl sitting next to you on the bus right now, on the train right now. She could be somebody in your home. So it's very everyday, normal people who are placed in slightly not normal and extraordinary circumstances. So there are many other characters, like the whole book begins with the death of Charu's brother Ravi, and he's like, your typical very reasonably nice guy. Okay, gets drunk on a weekend with his friends, but holds a reasonable job, works very hard. And in that sense, everybody in the book is somebody who could be us or the people we know around us. At the same time, their deeper or their darker side is also something that could be any one of us in certain instances. So it's like,
Right.
Sure, we've done that, right, at various stages. I mean, like you take the last piece of cake when no one's looking, even though, it might
Yeah,
not be
yeah,
the nicest thing to do.
yeah, yeah. Get it.
What happens when those opportunities grow? What happens when, yeah, it's not just about not being such a polite person anymore, but about actually getting a chance to do something more than you could. So I think whether you struggle with those decisions, or whether some of us have those tiny guilts about things we may or may not have done, those are all things we can relate to. So I think people would relate to the characters just as they seem to be on
Right.
the surface, but also the darker elements to the characters.
Right. I mean, while you were talking, I just a question came to my mind that when you're writing about a certain character's choice within the story, you know, uh, do, uh, do you think that if I make the character do this, then the readers might judge the character, so I'll rather not do it? Or you are okay with it? Like, for example, I get a lot of messages from my readers because more often than not, my characters end up doing things which are a little questionable, which challenges certain moral setups, certain societal setups. So I do get the questions, but I don't change because I love it. I think that's what we all are within. When left alone to ourselves, that's what we all are. All these jackets of morality and all these things comes when we get out into the society, basically. So but as writers, did you ever face this thing that if I make, let's say, Charu do this, or any other character of your novel do this, he or she might be judged by the readers, so let's me not do it? Any moment like that?
I don't think we did it with the writing and character. Did you do it at the plotting
No,
stage
I
also?
think
No.
that way, my kind of focal point, or this is usually, which is actually a little bit, what do you call, which can be make it very difficult, is mostly, it's like rationality and all is what somewhere, like,
Hmm.
is there some kind of rational explanation? It should not be just rash explanation. So that's where I kind of
Right.
usually come from.
Okay.
Rationally, a person, well thought out a person, can make any choice that he wants, like,
Hmm.
but so long
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
he's kind of like willing to face the consequence, he or she is willing to face the consequences. And usually, like, for me, the what the reader would, because for me, obviously, this is the first book, so I don't even know what the reader wants. So you're like, boss, this is what I
We
thought.
nobody knows. I don't think anybody knows what the reader wants that way, and
So
it's good.
we
It's good
just
not to know.
so, like, this is what I feel. This is what I feel. I would be very happy. So, whether I hope others will like it, but if they don't, but it's my loss or their loss.
They say, right, write for an audience of one, which is yourself. If you like the book you've written, then chances are somebody else will too.
Of course, of course, of
So
course.
yeah,
That
but
conviction
I think
has to sail through.
sorry, just adding on to what Jay said, I think that way it was easy figuring out character choices because the plot was so well thought out.
Hmm.
And
Hmm. Hmm.
so,
Hmm.
it's like you need to go from A to B, and there's only one
Hmm.
logical route a person is going to take from A to B.
Going to take.
And
Yeah.
whatever decisions they take, they are the decisions they take. So, there was no
Hmm.
need
Hmm.
to stop and ask the question of, is it acceptable if, let's say, Charu is
Yeah.
shown doing XYZ action?
Right.
Because,
Hmm.
it wasn't
Hmm.
about acceptability anymore. It was like, she has
Yeah.
to do this to move from A to B. So, there it is.
That's more logical. So let's go with that. Correct. Makes sense. Makes sense. So the next thing, I want to you guys know your thoughts on a very kind of, it's not a burning issue, but it's an issue that touches and affects every author. The fact that whether their book will be adapted on screen, onto the big screen, there's a lot of romanticism attached to it. Oh my God, my book is being adapted on screen and all. So just wanted to know what you guys think. And anyway, with the advent of OTT, so many people I know look for a fleshed out story in the form of a novel, which is good in a way. But then the bad side of it is very few people in the industry I know have time to read books. You know what I mean? So people, ask you to narrate books. I don't know how to narrate books. I can narrate a script. I cannot narrate a book, because a novel is inherently very complicated. How do you
Yeah.
narrate a chapter? So I just love to know your thoughts. What do you think about this book to screen thing? I'm sure it's not done enough in India for sure. That the number, I think a number that I'd read somewhere that Hollywood does it 44%. 44% of the books published internationally are converted into movies or right now OTT series and all. But in India, I don't think it's even 1%. I guess I
No,
think I can
no,
safely, it's not even 1%. So what
no,
do you
no.
guys think? Is it a good thing, bad thing? How does it should happen? Your thoughts completely.
See, I am a very strong believer in kind of. In fact, like I feel that that the 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 growth in OTT platform is going to be a great time for
Right.
Indian authors, because there will be like I think already at least what we are hearing about is there is a lot of scramble for content. But the only thing
Right.
is obviously the mindset of many of these so-called existing producers and all have to probably slightly change, but they will
Yes.
change because when there is huge demand, at
Mm-hmm.
some point at time they have to say, boss, let's come on, man,
Yeah.
let's look at content that is already out there, which has really done wonders in the market. So I am kind of very bullish about it, about the whole OTT
Right.
thing. And I feel it is like a reasonably good time for authors who are published, because they have clearly been able to what do you call say eloquently what their thoughts are. So
Yeah.
even let's say if you go to them, it can be even like for others. Like I've seen various series where they mix 4 or 5 books, the
Mm.
series is based on various novels, because one novel is not
Right.
enough. So
Enough.
I feel that it's something which has not happening, but I'm fairly confident that it will happen. That's
We
that's my
hope so.
firm
Mm.
belief.
Right. Right. What do you think, Krishna?
I'm going to be a little less modest than Jay here. Um, so, I think it can work very well. I completely agree with what he's saying, that this is a booming market, and that makes it a great time for writers. So pretty much, sorry about that. That was our doorbell.
So,
Okay, which
Just
one of us? Or do we move
yeah.
with the
Sure.
thing?
Sure. Sure.
Sorry,
Sure.
sorry about this. Work from home ki problems.
Yeah.
So, as I was saying, so I think everything I've written so far, other than my book of
Right.
poetry, has been optioned at some point of time or the other, and we
Right.
are talking
Right.
to a couple of people for Farside as well. And
Super.
what we're seeing is, I think I agree with you as well, Novoneel, on that, which is that the more the world building has been fleshed out, the easier it makes it, even not just to make it, but I think evaluate it and see
Mm.
what is the
Mm.
depth
Mm.
of possibility in the story. Having said, I
Right.
think pretty much every book, again, like you said, it's much more layered and nuanced. So when it comes to the screen process, there is a rethinking, a rewriting that comes in. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
it works both ways. But I
It
think
does.
I
In
think
fact, working in this industry, also, I've realized that one thing which always was a bone of contention for me personally was the fact that I find when producers or streams, online platform streams, when they come across an international commercial writer, I think they have more respect for international commercial writers than Indian commercial writers. Here, only if you are a literary author, only then you'll get that respect. I don't know why, because people think writing quote unquote pulp fiction or commercial fiction is easy, but it's certainly not easy. To engage someone through 300-page story, it's not at all easy. I mean, anyone can give it a shot and see for themselves how difficult it is, especially to write book after book after book and engage people. I don't know. I hope that respect comes, because I really think that commercial writers in India don't get that respect.
no, I completely, completely agree with you, and I also think that this distinction that people out there make about this is
Yeah.
commercial, this is literary,
Yeah.
is also can be a very arbitrary distinction, in the
It
sense
is.
that you
It
could
is.
have something that is very fast, very racy, but it's still written well.
Yeah.
It's still
Yeah.
written
Totally.
in good language, and you
Totally.
enjoy reading the text as much as you do the story that is being told through that text. So I completely agree with you that when it comes to Indian writing, there seems to be this very arbitrary perception between literary and commercial, which can get
And
in the
any
way of.
story, I feel it's also about the telling, right? The storytelling. Any story, I think, can be written in a very, with a very flowery language, and that story itself can be told in a very cut to chase, crisp language as well. So it's a choice that the author makes, and because it's a choice that the author makes, we sometimes, I think, fail to respect that. Okay, I mean, why to compare books, and why to, it's like comparing people. Why to do that? You can appreciate or not appreciate something based on your own cognizance. But I think that thing is certainly missing here, and I would love to see more people, giving respect to commercial authors, and and the books as well.
And I
I think, yeah,
some
yeah,
feel that it is going to happen, because the number of OTT plants, like I usually do research, because that is a favorite.
right, right.
That is
And you
because
run
we
I
set up
just read
our
on your
own
bio that
website.
you
We have set up
you
our own
run
website
Scripted.
called scriptahead.com, where the business model is
Right,
basically about people who can't write, they submit their ideas and we will develop, and like where
right,
we
right,
will pitch it to the content producers. So we have
right.
done every scenario that has been portrayed is basically like OTT is here, and OTT is
Hmm.
going to explode, and
Right,
only a matter of time that these so-called major producers get out of their comfort zone. Yes, one of them, many of these guys have one luxury, is that they have a lot of outside content which is available, which they
right.
Indianize it. So, like, they have a lot of very hit US serials and all, which they can Indianize it. But at some point of
Remake,
time,
yeah.
we will come back to these,
Our
very
own.
best-selling authors like you and Krishna and other people
Right,
and all.
right.
And of course, Krishna was unlucky to not to get made, but I think it will
But
happen.
that's, I know, I mean, because I've been in this industry, I know it's not an easy task to, option a book and make it happen till, in fact, till the book is actually made and that thing, quote unquote, product comes out, you can never be sure whether it's going to be made or not, because I've been through that journey quite some
Hmm.
time. So I know, and sometimes it also pains because there's so much of expectations and hope, and, you look forward to it and that doesn't happen. So it's a different story. Anyone who thought that writer's life was easy, no, it's not. We go through a lot of heartaches and stuff. But so I see another comment here, a question basically, I guess, from Amita Mahatre. She asked that have you ever experienced emotionally stuck situation while creating characters or plots?
I would say that I've been there are a lot of plots and all which are like halfway baked, and which I just leave it and go. So like I as I said, I only focus on plots. So for me, like there is one story which is very close to my heart, which I have written halfway, and
Right.
I feel that it doesn't have it in it. So it's like a 10-page synopsis which is just lying outside, and I don't know. Hopefully someday it will see the light of day, or it will just remain a synopsis. So for me, it happens quite a
Right.
lot of time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh, Another question that just popped up. It's not related to writing thrillers or something like that, but the pandemic years, all these last 1.5 years and 3 years. I just wanted to know, because I know it affected me as a person. Obviously, did it affect the writing process of yours, guys? The pandemic, and did you like your journey through the pandemic as writers, as authors?
Like I have thing you have to say, because like
No, see, so the pandemic has been was a little weird for us because we relocated after having lived in Singapore for nearly 18 years. We
Okay. Oh,
relocated
okay.
just a month before the first lockdown.
Right.
And so, as it is, our life was going through major change. Of course,
Changes.
we were just
Hmm.
relieved to be back with everybody and in India. And before we got stuck
Right.
outside somewhere and all of that, we
Right.
were glad that
Hmm.
our fur babies were okay, they were settled. So I think I know it sounds weird given that all the sadness and horror that has happened because of the pandemic,
Hmm.
but we were in a relatively happy space
Right.
because of that decision to have come back. And it was
Hmm.
also a time where Jay had quit his job in Singapore, and he was focusing completely on what he wanted to do, what he'd love to do, which is developing the plot, writing it.
Right.
Then, of course, the fact that I think you're stuck 24/7 with each other because you're in lockdown. So
Of
you
course.
either
Of
kill
course.
each other or figure something out.
Right. 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 Totally understandable. And I got another question from Harshil. He asks, who are your favorite crime and thriller authors? So that's a classic question, actually. Any favorites? Anyone that you
Oh,
follow?
for me, like if you go back to the old ones, like Agatha Christie, P.D. James, Ruth Randall. These are all like, these are like I can pick up any day and, easily pick it up. And of course, last 5 to 6 years, then you have had these books from Nordic Noires, like, basically.
Oh, yeah, big time. Yeah.
So those and all are like equally, like they are quite revolutionary, and like in fact they delve more into the psyche of the crime. Actually, they spend a lot of time explaining the psyche of the crime, because so those have been really blown out ones. And other than that, I do keep looking for it. I think I like Gone Girl quite a lot, because I like more like, rather than authors, I kind of see if,
of course, the stories and the books. Yeah. Same here.
Sarah Waters, one book I think I liked really quite a lot. But
right,
I've read quite a lot of thrillers, so as I said, I'm a whodunit fan. So yeah.
Of course. Any favorites, Krishna?
Yeah, I'm still stuck on Sherlock Holmes. And I
That's
don't mean that in a distinct way.
Great work to be stuck on.
No, I love it, because to me, again, that's the thing. You have a crime, you have a character, and you have impeccable language. What more do you want from a book?
Of course.
So, I think to me, it's more, if we talk about the classics, more than Poirot or anybody else, it has always been Holmes.
Right.
When it comes to recent crime, I shall confess, I am not a reader of crime. I watch a bit of it, especially because,
but that also makes me, wonder that, as far as I know, your previous books were not thrillers, right?
No, they have adventure. I think there's always a lot of action, but not really crime. There's no crime in it as
crime
such.
In it. So how did you make this change? Was it easy? It came naturally, or you struggled, or you came over it? Because it's what I understood, it's sometimes very difficult to shift genre midway. When you're writing in a flow and you've written 3, 4, 5 books, and then suddenly you enter a different zone altogether, I'm sure it must have created its own challenges.
Yes and no, because see, even though all my previous books are speculative fiction of some sort, they're either fantasy or they're mythology, they're soft science fiction. I think again, my appeal has always been, even if the rules of the world are a little out there still are rules of the world. There still has to be logic, a method to the madness. So in that sense, to me, it was just a shift of worlds. Instead of some fantasy world, the story is happening in the real world, and you write it by the real world rules.
Interesting.
So in that sense, writing was not so much the difficult part as I think connecting to the story was. Because but you write fantasy, why? Because reality doesn't really hold that much interest for you. It's I'm living this life, and that's reality enough for me. To be able to get my emotional and my headspace into connecting with the story set in the real world was tougher. So my buy-in, I think, was the toughest part. As Jay will tell you, I kept saying not interested. And not that I didn't like the story. I was just like, it's great, but not for me.
So what about Farside? Let's talk about the latest one. What about Farside for you made the cut? Like, let's say if Jay had written 7 synopses, what according to you Farside made you say, this is it? I would let's like this.
Because I think at one point I actually looked at it and don't tell Jay I said this, but I actually was like, shit, I wish I'd thought of that. Because that idea was so amazing. When by the time he just like finished with building it up, the idea and the messaging that was going behind it, despite everything that I was like, nah, not my thing, not my cup of tea. It's great, but no, thank you. At some point, it actually became like, I wish I'd thought of that. And then there was this period where he was working on it, and I was almost like, how do I sort of weave myself back into the system after having said I'm not going to do it? And thankfully, he was sweet enough to ask me again, at which point I just said yes.
Because I think one of those things that we creative people do also, we love to see what stays with us. If there's an idea, because obviously everyone gets multiple ideas every day, but the one that sticks to you and comes back to you, I think is worth giving it a try,
Absolutely.
Bottom line. I think we've got another question from Nirmala Pillai. She asks, do you think a love interest is a must to sell a thriller or suspense novel? Please. I think it's an amazing question.
Yeah. Thank
So
you
I'll
so
tell you
much.
something before you answer.
Right.
I'll tell you something. So my fight has been since the time I got published. My fight was always to create a reader base in India for thrillers. Okay, because when I started writing and published my first book, I was told that romance is a great market, but thriller is okay. And also my fight has been to create. And now I hear that other authors are being told to write thrillers, which I feel very proud and very happy about. So but what I used to do was, in my head I was writing thrillers and which had crime and all, but I used to tell people that I'm writing romantic thrillers because the word romance invariably increases sales. So I was told. So that's what I used to do. I used to deliberately call them romantic thrillers, but in my head I was never writing a romantic thriller. I was writing a thriller. But yeah, I would love to know your thoughts on that.
No, but honestly, actually, Novoneel, this question should go to you.
No, I mean, see, for me, I think it has become a style because once you write, let's say, 10 books or 9 books or whatever, and if you have written it in the same genre, especially, then the reader base will expect there will be invariably a style, a pattern, which we call the author's signature style. Any author's signature style, everyone has it. Every commercial author has it. So somewhere, I think the style of mine has been that even though I write thrillers, there is sometimes gruesome crimes happening, but my books also talk about relationships, also talk about love, also talk about kind of bordering into relationship drama also. So that has become my style. So for me,
Hmm.
I don't want to go away from it because it comes naturally, and anything that comes naturally, I
Yes.
don't want to reject it just because I want to attempt something which is there in the market or will sell well. I want to go with what my gut says.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to know your thoughts on this with respect to Farside as well as overall.
No, with respect to Farside, it's, there is obviously, some amount of romance, but I have watched both, both genres, and basically, and also read where in fact there is no romance and all involved. Usually, like Agatha Christie and all, there is no scope
No,
for the
no,
romance or anything like that. And
yeah,
even in TV serials, there is one called Law and Order. They are like very clear, no
It's a
romance,
yeah,
procedural. There's
yeah,
zero
procedural.
yeah.
romance.
More purist to theory. Yeah,
Having said that, having a little bit of a sexual shed tension and kind of expectation, because I think at heart we are all romantic. So
yeah,
there
yeah.
is this.
We Indians are all about emotions for sure.
So there is this innate desire that and especially when there is one female and one male, and like
Yeah,
there is an innate desire that hopefully that
yeah, yeah.
there is some kind of
Totally
at
get it.
least connection. Let's say not romance, but even if
Yeah.
they develop a very good bond, I think that is
Mm-hmm.
something which is a very innate desire, which some people are able to fulfill very well, while
Yeah.
others may fail at it miserably. Yeah. So
Because I'll tell you my experience with Farsight. So I've not completed the book. I've just, in fact, just started it. So while you were saying this, it just clicked to me. So I was reading about Charu, and then the moment David came into the scene, in my head I had already started. Oh my God, is Charu going to fall for David? Is there going to be any tension? So I don't know whether it will happen or not. So I don't want to give any spoilers any which way, because I also myself don't know. I'm reading it, and I would love readers to pick up the book and see if Charu falls for David or David falls for Charu. David, by the way, is Charu's brother's friend, Ravi's friend, who died in apparently an accident. So the moment I read about them, and there was this scene where, I think the fourth chapter or something, where he comes up and from Charu's point of view, she states that David is more handsome and all. So I thought, okay, this may go that way, and it kind of made me interested also. So I totally get what you're saying. If there is a chance, why not explore it? It's a organic chance, not a kind of manufactured chance. So great, yeah. I think we've run out of questions now, but it was an amazing conversation. It was an amazing conversation. And you guys
Likewise.
want to say something, whatever, like any closing notes, any tip for people who want to get into writing thrillers and everything?
Tips.
I wish, boss, I,
Jay's tip is marry someone.
yeah, yes,
No,
yeah,
marry someone who writes.
yeah, that is my tip.
Let's be
Yeah.
Yeah, and my
specific.
tip is marry someone who has excellent ideas.
Awesome. That's how you
Yeah.
end up writing a book together. That's
Yes.
brilliant. And I will again reiterate that people who have been live with us, thanks for your time. And even if you watch this live later, there is a link that Crossword Bookstores have put up on the comment section for Farside. You can click on the link, get the book, or you can visit your nearest bookstores. It was lovely conversing with you, Krishna and Jai.
Likewise, Novoneel, thank you so much for this wonderful
pleasure.
conversation. Thanks to
My pleasure.
Crossword for hosting us here today. And thanks to everyone who logged in or is watching this later. Yeah, it's been a great thing. Thank you.
Yeah,
Same
thank
here.
you so
All the
much.
best.
Really enjoyed it.
All the best.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
All the
thank
best.
you.
Bye-bye.
Same to
Guys.
you.
Bye. Bye. Take care.